The ATP Finals are upon us, and the stage is set for an electrifying showdown between the top 8 players of the year. From jaw-dropping performances to career-defining moments, each of these tennis giants has fought their way through the season, earning their place in this elite event. But who will rise to claim the crown? Join us as we break down the season so far for these tennis superstars. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more exciting ATP coverage. Between November 10th and 17th, the top 8 men's players in the world will face off in Turin, looking to end their seasons on a high. Italy's Yannick Sinner, Spain's Carlos Alcaraz, Germany's Alexander Zverev, Russian Daniil Medvedev, the USA's Taylor Fritz, Norway's Casper Ruud, Australia's Alex de Minaur, and Russia's Andrei Rublev have qualified, with defending champion Novak Djokovic unable to compete due to injury. Yannick Sinner, Australian Open, US Open, and 3 ATP 1000 titles. Sinner has enjoyed a hugely successful year, claiming 2 of the 4 Grand Slam titles on offer while adding 3 ATP 1000 titles to his career resume too. The 23-year-old began the year in ideal fashion, winning his first ever Grand Slam title in January at the Australian Open. Beating Medvedev in a 5-set epic from 2 sets behind, Sinner suffered Grand Slam disappointment in losing at the French Open semifinals to Alcaraz, and then the Wimbledon quarterfinals to Medvedev, but rounded things off on a high by claiming his first US Open title. Beating home favorite Taylor Fritz in the final, having previously won 1 ATP 1000 title, Sinner claimed a trio of trophies in 2024, clinching Miami Open, Cincinnati Open, and Shanghai Masters final victories over Grigor Dimitrov, Frances Tiafoe, and Djokovic respectively. He also made 3 further ATP 500 finals, winning the Rotterdam Open versus Alex de Minaur and Halle Open versus Hubert Hurkacz, but losing the China Open to Alcaraz. Sinner also became the inaugural Six Kings Slam champion this year. Beating Alcaraz in the final, Sinner made the final of the 2023 ATP Finals, but suffered defeat to Djokovic. The one cloud which has hung over Sinner this year has been the fact it was revealed he escaped a suspension after failing 2 drug tests in March, with his physiotherapist found to be the source of accidental contamination. WADA has since launched an appeal against the decision to clear Sinner. Carlos Alcaraz, French Open, Wimbledon, and ATP 1000 title. At just 21 years old, Alcaraz continues to marvel after another year of quality and entertainment. Like Sinner, the Spaniard clinched 2 of the 4 Grand Slams on offer in 2024, winning his first French Open title by beating Zverev in a 5-setter, and then his second successive Wimbledon by dispatching Djokovic in straight sets. Alcaraz won the 5th ATP 1000 title of his career this year by defending his Indian Wells triumph with a final victory over Medvedev, and clinched a further ATP 500 title at the China Open, defeating Sinner in the final elsewhere. He lost his maiden Australian Open quarterfinal to Zverev and suffered a shock US Open second-round loss to Dutchman Botic van de Zandschulp. Alcaraz also suffered a surprising Olympic Games final loss to Djokovic in Paris, mere weeks after his dominant Wimbledon success versus the same player. Alexander Zverev, Grand Slam final, and ATP 1000 title. Zverev made just the 2nd Grand Slam final of his career this year, after 2020 US Open defeat, losing to Alcaraz at Roland Garros. The 27-year-old also sealed the 6th ATP 1000 title of his career, beating Chile's Nicolas Jarry in the final of the Italian Open. For his second ever Rome success, elsewhere, Zverev lost in the Australian Open semifinals versus Medvedev from a position of 2 sets up at the Wimbledon 4th round and in the US Open quarters to Fritz. He missed out on a further bit of silverware at ATP 500 level, losing the Hamburg Open final versus Frenchman Arthur Fils. Daniil Medvedev, another Australian Open final defeat. Medvedev has undergone a year in which he undoubtedly proved he is one of the strongest men's players in the world at present, but failed to win any silverware. The 28-year-old made his third Australian Open final in the last 4 years, but again suffered defeat. And this one was perhaps his most painful, having stormed to a 2-set lead versus Sinner, but then lost out in 5. Medvedev was 2 sets ahead in the 2022 final versus Rafael Nadal too, but was facing a Sinner in January who had never won a Grand Slam. He was in the mix at 2 further Grand Slams too, losing in the Wimbledon semifinals to inspired eventual champion Alcaraz, and in the U.S. Open quarters to another eventual champion in Sinner. Medvedev also suffered a disappointing 4th-round French Open exit this year to de Minaur and lost in the final at Indian Wells to Alcaraz. A 2-time finalist at ATP Finals previously, Medvedev beat Dominic Thiem to lift the trophy in 2020 and lost to Zverev in 2021. Taylor Fritz, maiden Grand Slam final, and Eastbourne International title. Big serving American Fritz broke new personal ground this year by making his maiden Grand Slam final. On home soil, no less at the U.S. Open in New York, suffering defeat to Sinner, the 27-year-old also made the Australian Open quarters for the first time, losing to Djokovic, and made it to the Wimbledon quarters for just the second time, losing in 5 sets to Italian Lorenzo Musetti. The best Fritz did at ATP 1000 level this season were 2 semifinals at the Madrid Open and Shanghai Masters. Losing to Andrei Rublev and Djokovic respectively, Fritz did lift silverware this year, as he secured an ATP 250 title by winning the Eastbourne International. Casper Ruud, French Open semifinal, and 5 ATP finals. Norway's Ruud reached the French Open semifinals this year, losing to Zverev despite being a set ahead, but the 25-year-old failed to put a deep run together in any of the remaining 3 Grand Slams. Ruud was knocked out at the Australian Open 3rd round, Wimbledon 2nd round, and U.S. Open 4th round, but he did make 5 further ATP finals in 2024. At ATP 1000 level, Ruud made the Monte Carlo Masters final, but lost to Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas. Elsewhere, Ruud won the ATP 500 Barcelona Open versus Tsitsipas and ATP 250 Geneva Open versus Tomas Makak, but lost the ATP 500 Mexico Open versus de Minaur and ATP 250 Los Cabos Open versus Jordan Thompson, that he also suffered a quarterfinal defeat at the Paris Olympic Games, going down to Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime. Ruud finished as an ATP Finals runner-up in 2022, losing to Djokovic in the final. Andrei Rublev, ATP 1000 title, and equaling career-best Grand Slam finish. Rublev sealed a 5th straight Turin ATP Finals berth and equaled his career-best Grand Slam finish this year by making the Australian Open quarterfinals. The 27-year-old was knocked out by eventual champion Sinner in Melbourne, and elsewhere was knocked out of the French Open 3rd round, Wimbledon 1st round, and U.S. Open 4th round. He did secure his 2nd ever ATP 1000 title, though, clinching the Madrid Open after a comeback win versus Auger-Aliassime. Rublev also made the Canadian Open final but lost to Popyrin. The Russian added a piece of ATP 250 silverware this year too, winning the Hong Kong Open versus Finland's Emil Rusevuri. Alex de Minaur, 3 Grand Slam quarters and 3 ATP finals. Australian de Minaur has brought his game on hugely over the past 12 months, making the quarterfinals of 3 of the 4 Grand Slam events. The 25-year-old made the French Open and Wimbledon quarters for the first time in his career, losing to Zverev in the former and unfortunately pulling out injured in the latter, before making his 2nd ever U.S. Open quarter, suffering defeat to Britain's Jack Draper. Before that, he'd suffered a 4th-round Australian Open loss, but he did make a further 3 ATP finals in 2024. Indeed, de Minaur picked up an ATP 500 Mexico Open title win versus Ruud and ATP 250 Rosmalen Grass Court Championships title versus American Sebastian Corda. He also lost the final of the ATP 500 Rotterdam Open to Sinner. Where is it being hosted? From 2021 to 2025, The ATP Finals will be held at Turin's Inalpi Arena, Italy's largest indoor sporting arena. The tournament has been contested in major cities around the world, with a rich history dating back to the birth of the Masters in Tokyo, 1970. Between 2009 and 2020, the event was held in London at the O2 Arena. Previous to that, it was hosted in Shanghai, 2005 to 2008, 2002, Houston, 2003 to 2004, 1976, Sydney, 2001, Lisbon, 2000, Hanover, 1996 to 1999, Frankfurt, 1990 to 1995, New York, 1977 to 1989, Stockholm, 1975, Melbourne, 1974, Boston, 1973, Barcelona, 1972, Paris, 1971, Tokyo, 1970. As the ATP Finals approach, the competition is fiercer than ever. Each of these players has proven their dominance throughout the season, but only one will walk away as the ultimate champion, who will rise to the occasion and etch their name in tennis history. The journey to the top ends here, but the legacy will live on forever. Stay tuned for all the action. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to never miss a moment of this epic showdown.